The night was cold and quiet when Park Ho saw the fire fall from the sky. He was walking his usual patrol through the mountain forest. The trees stood tall and dark around him. The only sounds were his boots on the dirt path and the soft wind through the branches. Ho had been a wildlife ranger for 6 years now, watching over this remote stretch of Korean wilderness. He liked the silence. He liked being alone. Then the sky turned bright orange. Ho stopped and looked up. Something was falling fast, leaving a trail of fire behind it. It was not a plane. It was not a meteor. It moved in a strange way, like it was trying to slow down but failing. The object crashed somewhere in the valley below with a sound like thunder. For a long moment, Ho just stood there. His training told him to call it in, report the crash, wait for others to arrive, but something else pulled at him: curiosity, concern. He had seen crashes before. Sometimes people needed help before anyone else could get there. He started running toward the valley. It took him 20 minutes to reach the crash site. The trees were broken and burned in a long line where the object had come down. Smoke rose from the ground. And there, at the end of the destruction, sat something that made Ho stop breathing. It was a pod of some kind, metal but not any metal he knew. It was smooth and silver with strange markings on its surface. Part of it was crushed. Part of it was still glowing with heat. This was not from Earth. Ho knew that in his bones. He approached slowly, his flashlight cutting through the smoke. The pod had a door, or what used to be a door. It was bent open. Ho looked inside. 3 children lay unconscious on the floor of the pod. But they were not human children. Their skin was pale blue like the sky just before dawn. Their hair was silver and long. They wore simple white clothes that were now torn and dirty. They were small, young. The oldest looked maybe 16. The youngest looked about 7. Ho felt his heart beating fast. His mind was telling him 100 things at once. Aliens, real aliens on Earth in his forest. He should run, he should call someone, he should be afraid. But then the smallest one made a soft sound, a whimper, like a child having a bad dream. And suddenly, Ho was not afraid anymore. He reached into the pod carefully. He checked their pulses. They were alive. Their skin was cool but not cold. He could see small wounds on their arms and faces. They had been through something terrible. The oldest one opened her eyes. For 1 second they just stared at each other. Her eyes were violet, bright and sharp. Then fear filled them. She screamed something in a language Ho did not understand. Her hand moved fast, pulling a small blade from her belt. It glowed with blue light. She swung at him. Ho moved on instinct. He caught her wrist gently but firmly, turning the blade away. He did not hurt her. He did not fight back. He just stopped her. "Easy," he said, keeping his voice calm. "Easy, I am not going to hurt you." She did not understand his words, but she understood his tone. She understood that he was not attacking. She was breathing hard, her eyes moving between him and her sleeping sisters. Ho slowly let go of her wrist. He stepped back and held up his hands to show he had no weapon. Then he reached into his pack and pulled out his water bottle. He opened it and held it toward her. She looked at the water, then at him, then at the water again. Her hand was shaking when she took it. She drank a little, then immediately went to her sisters. She tried to wake them, speaking in that strange language. The middle one stirred. The youngest did not move. Ho knelt down and pointed at the smallest child. Then he pointed at himself and made a carrying motion. The older girl hesitated. Her eyes were full of distrust, but she was also tired and hurt and out of options. She gave him a small nod. Ho lifted the youngest child carefully. She weighed almost nothing. He could feel her breathing against his chest, slow and weak. The middle child woke up and immediately started crying when she saw Ho. The oldest one spoke sharply to her, and she went quiet, though tears still ran down her blue cheeks. They made a strange group walking through the forest. A human man carrying an alien child, with 2 more alien children following behind him. The oldest watched Ho like a hawk, her hand never far from her blade. The middle one held her sister's hand tightly and tried not to trip on the uneven ground. Ho's cabin was an hour's walk away. It was small and simple, built for one person, but it was warm and safe and far from anyone who might ask questions. He could not contact the authorities. He knew that. If the government found these children, they would be taken away, studied, maybe hurt. He had seen enough movies and read enough history to know how humans treated things they did not understand. These were children, lost and scared and hurt. That was all that mattered. When they reached the cabin, Ho laid the youngest on his bed. He wrapped her in blankets. He gave the other 2 warm clothes and food. They did not eat at first. They just sat in the corner, holding each other, watching him. Ho sat on the floor across the room. He made no sudden moves. He spoke softly, even though they could not understand him. "You are safe here," he said. "I will not let anyone hurt you, I promise." The oldest girl stared at him for a long time. Her violet eyes were hard and cold. She did not trust him. She did not trust anyone. He could see that. But the middle one eventually took a piece of bread and ate it. And when she did, her sister finally ate too. Ho smiled a little. It was a start. Far above the earth, beyond the clouds and the stars, something massive moved through the darkness of space. A fleet of ships unlike anything humans had ever built. They were black and silver, shaped like blades, and they numbered in the hundreds. At the center of the fleet was a flagship larger than a mountain. And on that flagship, standing before a window that showed the blue planet below, was a woman. She was tall and terrible and beautiful. Her skin was the same pale blue as the children. Her hair was silver and long, braided with threads of gold. Her eyes burned with cold fire. This was Empress of the Empire, ruler of 400 star systems, commander of the greatest fleet in the known galaxy, and mother to 3 lost daughters. "Your Majesty," said a voice behind her. It was Commander, her most loyal soldier. "We have arrived at the planet. Our scouts are scanning now." The Empress did not turn around. Her eyes stayed fixed on the earth. "Find them," she said. Her voice was quiet, but it carried the weight of absolute power. "Find my children, and if anything on that world has harmed them, burn it all." "Yes, Your Majesty." Commander bowed and left. Empress placed her hand on the cold glass of the window. Somewhere on that small blue planet her daughters were waiting. She would find them. She would bring them home. And heaven help anyone who stood in her way. 5 days passed in the small cabin on the mountain. The youngest child had woken on the 2nd day. She opened her eyes, saw Ho sitting across the room, and immediately hid behind her oldest sister. She did not cry. She did not scream. She just went very quiet and very still, like a small animal trying to disappear. Ho learned their names on the 3rd day. The middle child was the one who made it happen. She was curious about everything. She spent hours looking at the simple things in his cabin: books, cups, a clock. She picked them up and studied them like they were treasures from another world, which he supposed they were. She found a small device in her pocket. It had survived the crash. She worked on it for hours, her small fingers moving with surprising skill. When she was done, she spoke into it and then pointed it at Ho. "Can you understand me now?" she asked. Ho blinked. The voice from the device was strange, mechanical, but the words were clear. "Yes," he said, "I can understand you." The girl smiled wide. It was the first smile he had seen from any of them. "I fixed it. It is a translator. It is not perfect, but it works." The oldest sister came over and took the device. She looked at Ho with those hard violet eyes. "Why are you helping us?" she asked. Ho thought about the question. He could give many answers. Because it was the right thing to do, because they were children, because he could not have left them there to die. "Because you needed help," he said simply. The girl studied him for a long moment. I am, she finally said. This is, she pointed at the middle child. And that is, she pointed at the youngest who was still hiding behind her. I am Ho, he said, Park Ho. Nodded once. Then she went back to the corner where she had been sitting. She did not thank him, she did not smile, but she had given him their names. For now, that was enough. The days found their rhythm after that. Ho cooked simple meals, rice, soup, vegetables from his small garden. The children ate carefully at first, testing each food to see if it was safe, liked everything, only ate the rice, ate whatever was put in front of her without complaint or comment. Asked questions constantly. What was that bird called? Why did the trees change color? How did fire work? What was that sound? Ho answered every question with patience. He liked her curiosity. It reminded him of someone he used to know. Remained cold and distant. She watched Ho always, waiting for him to make a mistake, waiting for him to reveal his true intentions. She had been taught that aliens were dangerous, that they could not be trusted. Ho could see this distrust in every look she gave him. You should not trust him, told her sisters one night. She did not know that Ho could hear her from the other room. We do not know what he wants. Our tutors said that primitive species are unpredictable. They take what they want by force. But he has not hurt us, whispered back. He has been kind. That is what makes it dangerous. He is waiting for something. Ho said nothing. He understood her fear. He would not try to change her mind with words. He would show her through his actions. The hardest nights were when had her dreams. The youngest princess barely spoke. She stayed close to her sisters always, her large violet eyes watching everything with a mix of fear and wonder. But at night, when sleep took her, the memories came back. Ho was sleeping on the floor when he heard the first scream. He was on his feet in a second, his hand reaching for a weapon that was not there. Then he saw sitting up on the bed, her body shaking, tears running down her face. She was speaking fast in her own language, words that the translator could not catch. Was already there, holding her sister, trying to calm her, but was lost in the nightmare. She pushed away, scrambling to the corner of the room, making herself as small as possible. Ho moved slowly. He sat down on the floor a few feet away from her. He did not reach for her. He did not speak. He just sat there, quiet and calm, letting her know that she was not alone. Then very softly, he began to hum. It was an old song, a lullaby his mother used to sing to him when he was a child. And later, he had sung it to his little sister when their parents were gone and she was scared of the dark. The melody was simple and gentle. It filled the small cabin like warm light. His crying slowed, her shaking eased. She looked at Ho with wide, wet eyes. He kept humming. He did not move closer. He let her decide. After a long moment, crawled across the floor. She stopped right next to him. Then, very carefully, she leaned against his side. Ho put his arm around her gently. He kept humming until her eyes closed and her breathing became slow and peaceful. She fell asleep against him, her small hands holding onto his shirt. When he looked up, was standing in the doorway. Her face was strange. The hardness was still there, but something else was underneath it, something that might have been confusion, or maybe something softer. She turned and walked away without a word. The next morning, asked about the song. What was that music you made last night? She asked while eating her breakfast. It was a lullaby, Ho said. A song for children. My mother sang it to me when I was young. Do you have children? The question hit Ho like a stone. He was quiet for a moment. No, he said, but I had a sister. She was younger than me. I used to sing that song to her too. Where is she now? Ho looked out the window. The morning light was soft and golden. She died, he said. A long time ago. She was very sick and the doctors could not save her. She was only 8 years old. Was quiet, even looked up from her corner. I am sorry, said softly. Ho smiled, but it was a sad smile. It was many years ago, but I still think about her every day. That afternoon, something changed. Came and sat near him for the first time. She did not say anything. She just sat there, looking out the same window he was looking out. It was not much, but it was something. On the sixth day, Ho saw the drone. He was outside gathering firewood when he noticed it. A small object floating above the trees. It made no sound. It moved in a way that no Earth machine could move. It was scanning the area, searching. Ho watched it for a long moment. Then it turned and flew away. Someone was looking for the children, but who, their family, their enemies, he had no way to know. He went back inside and looked at the three sisters, was teaching how to play a game with small stones, was reading one of his books, using the translator to understand the words. They looked almost peaceful. "Something is coming," he told them. "I saw a machine in the sky. It was looking for something, maybe for you." His face went pale. Was it silver with red lights? Yes. She stood up fast. "Those are scout drones. They are searching for us. But I do not know if they are from our mother or from the rebels who attacked our ship." Rebels. There was an attack. Our ship was destroyed. We escaped in the pod. The rebels want us dead. His voice was shaking. "If they find us, they will kill us. And they will kill you too." Ho looked at the three children. They were scared. They had been running and hiding for so long. They had no one else to protect them. He had been a soldier once. He had protected people before. He knew what it meant to stand between danger and the innocent. "Listen to me," he said, kneeling down so he was at their level. "I do not know who is coming. I do not know if they are friends or enemies. But until I know that you will be safe, no one is taking you anywhere." Stared at him. "You cannot stop them. You are just one human. You have no weapons, no army, no power." Ho met her eyes. "I do not need an army. I just need to be standing between you and whoever comes through that door." For the first time, something in his expression cracked. The wall she had built around herself showed a small opening. "Why?" she whispered. "Why would you die for us? You do not even know us." Ho thought of his sister, her smile, her laugh, the way she used to hold his hand when she was scared. He had not been able to save her. He had been too young, too helpless, but he was not helpless anymore. "Because that is what protectors do," he said simply. Walked over and took his hand. She looked up at him with those big violet eyes. "Ho," she said softly. It was the first time she had spoken his name. He squeezed her hand gently. "I am here. I am not going anywhere." Outside, more drones began to fill the sky. The truth came out on the seventh night. Ho had been watching the drones for 2 days now. They moved in patterns, circling the mountain, getting closer each time. Whatever was controlling them was narrowing the search. It was only a matter of time before they found the cabin. He was sitting by the fire when came and sat across from him. Her sisters were sleeping in the other room. For once her face was not hard or cold. She looked tired, young, like the teenager she actually was. "I need to tell you something," she said. Ho waited. "We are not just children from a ship that crashed. We are princesses. Our mother is Empress. She rules 400 star systems. The Empire is one of the largest in the galaxy." Paused. "The rebels who attacked us want to destroy our mother's rule. They thought that killing us would break her, make her weak." Ho took this in slowly. Princesses, an empress, star systems. It was almost too much to understand, but he had accepted stranger things in the past week. "Your mother is looking for you?" he asked. Yes, the drones could be hers, or they could be from the rebels who want to finish what they started. His hands were shaking. "I do not know which." "If your mother finds you, are you safe with her?" Hesitated. It was a long hesitation. "Our mother is complicated. She is cold, strict. She has always put the Empire before everything, even before us." She looked at the fire. "But she loves us in her own way. She would never hurt us." Ho nodded. "Then we wait for her, but if the rebels come first, I will handle them." Almost laughed. "You do not understand. The rebels are soldiers. They have weapons that can destroy buildings, armor that can stop any bullet. You are one man with no technology. How can you possibly fight them? Ho looked at her calmly. I was a Marine. I have fought before, and I know these mountains better than anyone. Technology is not everything. That is not enough. It will have to be. They came 2 nights later. Ho woke to a sound he knew well, the soft crunch of boots on forest ground. Someone was trying to be quiet, but they did not know the mountain like he did. They did not know which branches cracked and which leaves rustled. He was out of bed in a second. He grabbed his hunting rifle and moved to the window. In the moonlight, he could see 3 figures approaching the cabin. They were tall, wearing black armor that seemed to eat the light around them. Each one carried a weapon that glowed with blue energy. Rebels. Ho's heart was pounding, but his hands were steady. He had trained for this, not for aliens but for enemies, and in the end, enemies were all the same. He moved quickly to the bedroom where the children slept. He shook awake and covered her mouth before she could make a sound. They are here, he whispered. 3 of them, armed. You need to take your sisters and hide. His eyes went wide. Where? Under the cabin there is a space, a crawl space. Take them there and do not come out until I tell you. He pressed the translator device into her hand. Do you understand? She nodded. She woke her sisters quietly, started to cry, but held her close and kept her silent. They moved to the hidden door in the floor and climbed down into the darkness. Ho watched them go, then he turned toward the front door. 3 soldiers with advanced weapons. He had a rifle with 12 bullets and a hunting knife. The math was not good, but math did not matter when children were involved. He slipped out the back door and into the forest. The first rebel died without knowing what happened. Ho had spent hours setting traps in the forest around his cabin, not for aliens but for the wild boars that sometimes came down from the higher mountains. A pit covered with leaves and branches. The rebel walked right into it, falling 6 feet onto sharpened stakes. His scream alerted the others. They started firing their weapons into the forest, lighting up the night with blue plasma. Trees exploded. Ground burned. But Ho was not where they were shooting. He moved like a shadow through the trees he had known for 6 years. Every rock was familiar. Every path was memorized. He circled around behind the second rebel. The alien was big, much bigger than Ho. His armor looked impossible to break, but armor had gaps. It always did. At the neck, at the joints, places where a body needed to bend. Ho raised his rifle and fired 3 times. The first bullet missed. The second hit the rebel's shoulder, doing nothing, but the third found the gap between the helmet and the chest plate. The rebel fell. The last one was smarter. He stopped firing blindly. He stood still, scanning the forest with some kind of device on his arm. Ho could see the light sweeping back and forth. Then the light found him. The rebel fired. Ho threw himself behind a tree as plasma burned the air where he had been standing. He could feel the heat on his skin. His shirt was smoking. The rebel advanced, firing again and again. Ho ran, ducking and rolling, using every piece of cover he could find. A shot grazed his arm and pain exploded through his body. He could smell his own burned flesh. He tripped on a root and fell hard. His rifle flew from his hands. When he looked up, the rebel was standing over him, weapon aimed at his head. "Primitive creature," the rebel said through his helmet. His voice was cold and amused. "Did you really think you could stop us?" Ho looked up at him. His arm was burning with pain. His body was exhausted, but his eyes were calm. "I just needed to slow you down," he said. The rebel tilted his head. "What?" A blue light flashed behind him, drove her energy blade into the gap in his armor. The rebel screamed and spun around, throwing her off, but the blade had done its work. He stumbled, fell to one knee. Ho grabbed his fallen rifle, and fired the last 4 bullets into the rebel's exposed neck. Silence fell over the forest. Ho lay on the ground, breathing hard. His arm was a mess of blood and burned skin. His whole body felt like it was on fire, but he was alive, and the rebels were dead. Stood a few feet away, trembling. The energy blade was still in her hand, covered in dark alien blood. She looked at Ho with an expression he had never seen on her face before. "You saved us," she whispered. "You saved me too," he said, trying to smile through the pain. Footsteps came from the cabin, ran out first, followed by. They saw Ho on the ground and rushed to him. Immediately started looking at his wound, her hands surprisingly steady, just held onto his good arm and cried quietly. "We need to stop the bleeding," said. "Bring water and cloth." Did not move for a moment. She was still staring at Ho. Then something broke in her face. The wall she had been building for so long finally crumbled. "Ho," she said, and her voice cracked on his name. Tears were running down her blue cheeks. "Thank you, thank you." She knelt beside him and helped her sister treat his wound. It took an hour to clean and wrap his arm. The burn was bad but not deep. He would heal given time. Had found medicine in his cabin and applied it carefully. She was smart, that one. She would make a good doctor someday. When it was done, Ho sat against a tree, exhausted but awake. Had fallen asleep with her head in his lap. Was sitting nearby, watching the forest for any more threats. Sat beside him. She had not left his side since the fight ended. "I was wrong about you," she said quietly. "You were protecting your sisters. That is never wrong. I called you primitive, dangerous. I thought you were like the other species we learned about, the ones who would use us for power." She shook her head. "But you almost died for us. You expected to die. Why?" Ho looked down at sleeping face. So peaceful now, so different from the scared child who had hidden from him that first night. "My sister died when I was young," he said. "I could not protect her. I promised myself that I would never let that happen again. Not to any child, not while I still breathe." Was silent for a long moment. Then she leaned her head against his shoulder. "I am glad we crashed on your mountain," she said. Ho smiled. "So am I." A shadow fell over them. Ho looked up. The sky, which had been full of stars, was now blocked by something massive, a ship larger than anything he could have imagined. It descended slowly through the clouds, lights blazing, engines humming with power. More ships appeared behind it, hundreds of them, a fleet that filled the entire sky. Stood up, her face pale. "It is my mother," she said. "The Empress has found us." Ho got to his feet, holding in his arms. He looked at the massive ship above them. Everything was about to change. The ground shook as the ships descended. Ho had seen military operations before. He had been part of them, but nothing in his experience had prepared him for this. Dozens of smaller craft broke away from the flagship and landed in the clearing around his cabin. Soldiers poured out, hundreds of them, moving with perfect coordination. They wore silver armor that shone in the light of their ships, and each one carried weapons that made the rebel guns look like toys. In seconds, Ho's cabin was surrounded. He stood in the middle of the clearing, holding in his arms. Pressed close to his side, her hand gripping his shirt. Stood in front of them all, her back straight, her face showing no fear. She was trying to look like a princess. A path opened in the wall of soldiers. Commander walked through first. He was tall, even for his species, with a face and cold yellow eyes. He looked at Ho the way a man might look at an insect. "The princesses," he said, "secure them." Soldiers moved forward. Whimpered and pressed her face into Ho's chest, stepped closer to him, even took a step back. "Wait," said, her voice strong. "This human is under my protection. You will not touch him." Commander laughed. It was not a nice laugh. "Your protection, princess? You are a child. You have no authority here, and this creature harbored imperial royalty without permission. That alone is a death sentence. He saved our lives." That does not matter. It matters to me. A new voice cut through the air. It was quiet, but it carried the weight of absolute power. Every soldier went completely still. Commander stepped aside and lowered his head. Empress walked into the clearing. Ho had seen many things in his life. He had seen generals and politicians and powerful men who thought they ruled the world, but he had never seen anything like the Empress. She was tall, taller than any human woman. Her skin was pale blue like her daughter's, but her eyes burned with silver fire. She wore black armor decorated with gold, and a crown of silver light floated above her head. She moved like she owned everything around her, which Ho supposed she did. She stopped a few feet away from him. Her eyes went to her daughters first. She looked at each of them, checking for injuries, checking that they were real. Something flickered in her face. Relief. Love. But it was gone in an instant, hidden behind a mask of cold authority. Then her eyes moved to Ho. He had never been looked at like that before. It felt like being examined by a god, like every secret he had ever kept was being pulled out of his mind and studied. He did not look away. He did not lower his eyes. He just held her gaze and kept safe in his arms. "You are the human," the Empress said. Her voice was soft but carried across the clearing without effort. "The one who kept my daughters." "I am. Commander tells me you should die for this crime, that you touched royal blood without permission, that you hid them from us." She stepped closer. Ho could feel the power radiating off her. "What do you have to say?" Ho thought about his answer carefully. "Your daughters crashed on my mountain. They were hurt and scared and alone. I did what anyone should do. I helped them." "Anyone?" The Empress raised an eyebrow. "Do you know what most species would do if they found 3 princesses of the Empire? They would sell them to the highest bidder, or hold them for ransom, or kill them and use their bodies to make a political statement." She tilted her head. "Why did you not do any of these things?" "Because they are children." The answer seemed to surprise her. "That is all." "That is everything." The Empress stared at him for a long moment. The clearing was completely silent. Every soldier watched. Every breath was held. "Mother" stepped forward. She stood between Ho and the Empress, her chin raised. "This human did what your entire fleet could not. He found us. He protected us. He fought rebels with nothing but a simple weapon and his own hands." Her voice was shaking, but she did not stop. "He was wounded defending us. He expected to die, and he never asked for anything in return. Dad, you taught me that loyalty should be rewarded, that honor should be recognized. If you kill this man, you are saying that those lessons were lies." The Empress's eyes narrowed. For a terrible moment, Ho thought she might strike her own daughter, but then something changed in her face. The cold mask cracked just a little. "You would speak against me for this human." "I would speak the truth for someone who deserves it." Stepped forward too. "He was kind to us, Mother. He fed us and kept us warm. He sang to when she had nightmares." She looked at Ho with shining eyes. "He is a good person." Lifted her head from Ho's chest. She looked at her mother with those big violet eyes. "He stayed," she said softly. "When the bad people came, he stayed." The Empress looked at her youngest daughter. Something in her expression shifted. The cold authority melted away, replaced by something older and deeper. The look of a mother seeing her child safe after fearing the worst. She walked toward Ho slowly. He forced himself to stay still, even though every instinct told him to run. She stopped right in front of him, so close he could see the silver light in her eyes. "You have held my daughter," she said, "the youngest princess of the Empire. Do you know that in 200 years of my rule, only 3 people have been allowed to do that?" "I did not know that." "Now you do," she looked at, still nestled in his arms. "And yet she clings to you, she who fears everyone, she who has not spoken more than 10 words since the attack." The Empress paused. "She spoke for you. She is a brave child." "She is, all of them are." The Empress stepped back. "Put my daughter down, human." Ho hesitated, his arms tightened around his neck. "It is all right," he said softly to her. "Go to your mother." Looked at him with those big eyes. Then she leaned forward and pressed her forehead against his, a gesture he did not understand but felt was important. Finally, she let go. The Empress caught her daughter and held her close. For one moment the mask fell away completely. She closed her eyes and held tight, her face showing nothing but love and relief. Then she opened her eyes and looked at Ho again. The mask was back, but it was different now. Less cold, more thoughtful. "Commander," she said. The officer stepped forward. "Yes, Your Majesty." "What is the sentence for a foreign creature who harbors imperial royalty without permission?" "Death, Your Majesty, immediate execution." "And the reward for someone who saves the lives of imperial royalty?" Commander hesitated. "That would depend on the level of service, Your Majesty." 3 princesses, a week of protection, victory against rebel assassins, wounds taken in their defense. The Empress looked at Ho. "What would you say that is worth, Commander?" His face twisted. He clearly did not like where this was going. "Your Majesty, he is just a human, a primitive creature from a backwater planet. Whatever service he provided was surely—" "Was surely what?" The Empress's voice went cold. "Surely less valuable because he is human. Surely worth less because he has no technology. Tell me, Commander, which of your soldiers would have done what he did? Which of them would have faced 3 armed rebels with nothing but a simple weapon and won?" Commander said nothing. "I thought so." The Empress turned to her soldiers. "This human is not to be harmed. Anyone who threatens him answers to me personally." She looked at Ho. "You will come with us to the flagship. I have questions, and I suspect my daughters have stories they want to share." Ho looked at his cabin, his home for 6 years, his place of peace and solitude. Then he looked at the 3 princesses, at's hopeful smile, at's grateful nod, at who was watching him with bright eyes. "All right," he said. As they walked toward the transport ship, fell into step beside him. "Thank you," she said quietly, "for everything. Thank your sisters, they spoke for me." Shook her head. "We all did because you earned it." She paused. "My mother is not easy, she will test you, she will question everything. But if you answered her honestly, you have nothing to fear." Ho looked at the massive flagship waiting above. "I always answer honestly. It is less complicated." Almost smiled. "Then you will do fine." They boarded the transport and rose into the sky. Below them, the mountain grew small, and the earth became a blue and green ball in the darkness of space. Ho's old life was over. Something new was beginning. He did not know what it would bring. But as he watched fall asleep against her mother's shoulder, still reaching out to hold his hand, he knew one thing for certain. Whatever came next, he would face it the same way he had faced everything else. One step at a time, one child at a time, one promise at a time. And he would not break. The throne room of the flagship was larger than any building Ho had ever seen. The ceiling rose so high it disappeared into shadow. Pillars of black stone lined the walls, carved with symbols that glowed with soft blue light. At the far end of the room sat a throne made of silver metal and dark crystal. It looked less like a chair and more like a piece of art, or a weapon. Ho stood in the center of the room. His wounded arm had been treated by doctors. They had used some kind of light that closed the burn and healed the flesh in minutes. But the treatment did nothing for his tiredness or his nerves. The room was full of people, officers in silver uniforms, advisors in flowing robes, soldiers standing at attention. All of them were watching him, all of them were judging. Commander stood near the throne, his eyes never left Ho. The hatred in them was clear. He wanted the human dead. He was just waiting for his chance. An old man in white robes stood on the other side. His hair was long and gray, and his face was lined with age and wisdom. Elder, the Empress's chief advisor. He looked at Ho with curiosity instead of hatred. That was something, at least. The Empress entered from a door behind the throne. She had changed from her armor into a gown of black and gold. The crown of light still floated above her head. She moved to her throne and sat down, her silver eyes fixed on Ho. "Leave us," she said. The room emptied quickly. Advisors and officers filed out through the doors. Soldiers marched away in perfect formation. In less than a minute, only 3 people remained: the Empress, Commander Elder, and Ho. "My daughters are resting," the Empress said. "They refuse to sleep until I promise not to harm you. Even who trusts no one spoke for you." She leaned back on her throne. "I reviewed the recordings from their devices. I saw everything that happened in your cabin." Ho said nothing, he just waited. "I saw you hold my youngest daughter through her nightmares. I saw you take wounds meant for my children. I saw my eldest daughter, who was taught that all aliens are dangerous, call you by name with tears in her eyes." The Empress paused. "In 200 years I have never seen such a thing." Commander stepped forward. "Your Majesty, with respect, this changes nothing. The human knows about us now. He knows about the Empire, about the princesses, about our technology. He is a security risk. If he returns to his world and speaks—" "He will not speak." Looked surprised. "How can you be certain?" The Empress looked at Ho. "Because I am going to ask him, and I believe he will tell me the truth." She stood from her throne and walked down the steps toward him. "Human, Park Ho, if I send you back to your world with enough wealth to live like a king for the rest of your life, will you keep silent about what you have seen?" Ho met her eyes. "Yes." "Why, you could become famous. You could sell your story. You could gain power." "I do not want fame or power. I never have. I just want to live quietly and protect what matters." He paused. "Your daughters trusted me with their secret. I will not betray that trust, ever." The Empress studied him for a long moment. Then she nodded slowly. "I believe you," she said. Commander made a sound of frustration. "Your Majesty." "Enough, Commander." The Empress turned to face him. "You have questioned my judgment 3 times today. There will not be a 4th. Went silent, but his eyes burned with anger. Elder stepped forward and bowed. "Your Majesty, if I may speak." "You may." "The human has shown something rare, not just loyalty but selfless loyalty. He had nothing to gain from protecting the princesses. He expected to die in their defense, and yet he stood firm." The old man looked at Ho with respect. "Such people are valuable. In all my years advising you, I have seen perhaps a handful. It would be a waste to send him away." The Empress tilted her head. "What are you suggesting?" "The princesses clearly trust him. They feel safe with him. Perhaps there is a role he could fill, a position that would benefit both him and the Empire." "You want to hire him," spat this primitive. "I want to recognize his worth," said calmly. "Something you seem unable to do, Commander." Before could respond, a door opened on the side of the room. 3 small figures ran through. Came first, still wearing the white clothes from the cabin, was close behind, her eyes bright with worry. And the smallest ran straight past everyone and grabbed onto Ho's hand. "You promised," said to her mother. Her voice was small but firm. "You promised not to hurt him." The Empress's face softened. "I have not hurt him, little one. We were just talking." "Commander wants him dead." Walked forward until she stood beside Ho. "I heard him say it. He thinks humans are beneath us." "Many think that way," the Empress said. "Are they right?" The question hung in the air. The Empress looked at her eldest daughter, then at the human standing beside her. The human who had fought and bled for children who were not his own. The human who had asked for nothing in return. "No," the Empress said finally, "they are not right." She walked back to her throne but did not sit. Instead, she turned to face Ho. "Park Ho of Earth, I offer you a choice. You may return to your world with my gratitude and my protection. No one will harm you or your planet while I live. You will have wealth, comfort, and peace for the rest of your days." She paused. "Or you may stay. You may become the guardian of the imperial princesses. You will protect my daughters as you have already done. You will be given training, resources, and authority. You will be part of the empire." The room went completely silent. Ho looked at the Empress. Then he looked down at who was still holding his hand, at who was watching him with hope shining in her eyes, at who for once was not hiding behind a mask of coldness. "I lost my sister when I was young," he said. "I could not protect her. I have carried that failure with me every day since. When I found your daughters in that crashed pod, something changed in me. I knew I would not fail again, not this time." He knelt down so he was at eye level. He took her small hands in his. "I am not going anywhere," he said. "Not now, not ever." Smiled. It was the first real smile he had seen from her. She threw her arms around his neck and held on tight. Laughed and joined the hug. Even, after a moment's hesitation, put her hand on Ho's shoulder. The Empress watched them. Something moved in her silver eyes, something warm. "Then it is decided," she said. "From this day forward, Park Ho of Earth holds the title of Guardian of the Imperial Princesses. He speaks with my voice in matters of their safety. He stands under my protection. Any who threaten him threaten me." Commander looked like he had swallowed something bitter, but he said nothing. Elder bowed with a smile. "A wise decision, Your Majesty." The Empress walked down from the throne one more time. She stopped in front of Ho and looked at him not as an empress to a subject, but as a mother to the man who had saved her children. "Thank you," she said quietly. The words seemed strange coming from her, like she did not say them often. "Whatever you need, whatever you want, you have only to ask." Ho stood and met her eyes. "I only want to keep them safe. That is all I have ever wanted." "Then we understand each other." She turned to leave, then stopped and looked back. "There is one more thing," she said. "I have decided to extend my protection to your world. Earth will be under the shield of the Empire. No one will harm it." Ho blinked. "That is very generous, Your Majesty." "It is not generosity. It is justice. That world created a man who would die for strangers, a world like that deserves to survive." She looked at her daughters one more time, then walked out of the throne room. The doors closed behind her. Ho stood in the silence of the great room. He could feel his hand in his, warm and small. He could see and watching him with eyes full of trust. He had come to the mountain years ago looking for peace and solitude. He had found something different, something better. A family. Years later, stories would spread across 100 worlds. Stories about a strange guardian who walked beside the princesses of the Empire. A human from a small blue planet at the edge of known space. A man who carried no advanced weapons, wore no fancy armor, but who had earned the respect of an empress and the love of her daughters. The stories said he was dangerous, that he had killed rebel assassins with nothing but primitive tools, that he feared nothing and asked for nothing. But the princesses knew the truth. He was not dangerous. He was not a warrior. He was just a man who had made a promise. And he kept it. Every day, every night, through every danger. He stayed. And that, in the end, was the most human thing of all. Who had once been silent and scared, would grow up telling her own children about the man who had hummed lullabies in a cabin on a distant mountain, would become a healer, inspired by the human who had taught her that kindness was its own kind of strength, would become a leader, and she would never forget the lesson she learned from a ranger who fought an impossible battle just because it was right. And Ho, the human guardian, would live out his days surrounded by family. Not the family he was born with, but the family he had chosen. And in the vastness of the galaxy, where empires rose and fell and stars lived and died, that small cabin on a Korean mountain would be remembered. Because that was where a human decided that 3 lost children were worth fighting for. And nothing in the universe could ever change that.